idea for all this really came from a dream?
Yes, it did.
Good evening and welcome to Nox Mente. Tonight's guest is Meredith Swaim. Meredith is an evolutionary astrologer, yin yoga teacher, and sound worker. She started out in academia, chasing a PhD in health psychology, delving deep into the neurological and psychological and subjective motivation behind human emotion and behavior, and found astrology during her first year of her undergraduate degree and fell in love, ingesting as much of the information as possible. She enjoys assisting people with embodiment, energetic hygiene, psychic self-defense, and helping folks deprogram and untangle themselves energetically from the systems of oppression active today upon this realm so that they can access their creation. Meredith, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Hello, beautiful Meredith.
So, hi, Nish. I have a soft spot in my heart for Nish.
I love you.
I think we all do.
So it occurred to me today when I saw your name on Nox Mente that I have it as Swaim with an N on the Cosmic Salon.
You know?
I'm going to have to go fix that boo-boo.
Retro. We cannot have that.
I know it. It's hilarious. NM, it's all the same.
Yeah. What's in a name?
So how are you doing, my dear?
I'm good. Definitely feeling a lot of things, honestly, today I felt a little bit of pressure, like pressure energy or compression or something along those lines. So I've been trying to work that out. I went to the woods today and I did like a long, run walk in the woods, and that was really nice. So
what do you think the pressure is from?
Well, I mean,
cosmic rays.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say, I think maybe there's, and, I'm relatively new to, some of this language, but like the frequency fences or whatever, whatever contains us, I think is becoming a little bit less, despite what,
no, it's not.
What it seems like. Well, like the magnetosphere, the ionosphere, all that stuff's like weakening, and I think
true. Maybe, that's why the 5G is going to enclose us closer.
Right. Exactly. So we have like beneficial, maybe like neutrinos or cosmic energy that's coming in, and then we have like, just the worst kind of like weaponized slow kill frequency, like also blaring. I think that's what the pressure is.
Yeah. Just it's fuckery all around for sure.
Absolutely. I think you nailed it with that for sure. And what's in your vape, Jerry?
Tonight I have Strawberry Duchess.
Oh, look at it. Cool.
That sounds good.
It's a strawberry cheesecake.
What's in yours,
Meredith? That sounds yummy. I have, oh my gosh, mine is called God Nectars.
Okay.
Oh, Bad Blood. Bad Blood's got good stuff.
Yeah. I have been trying to stop, but you know how it goes.
I do.
You can quit nicotine every day.
I have like a whole pile of vape juice over here.
Oh my gosh, look at it. Wow.
Jerry, serious. Will you make your own too, Jerry?
I do.
Yeah.
Ooh, I want some.
This stuff's really good. This blueberry custard.
Okay. I do like the custardy ones,
I love custard just as custard.
That's what she said. All right. I'm going to stay out of this now.
Okay.
I don't vape, but if I did. So, all right, I guess here we are. Here we are again. It's you, Meredith, once again.
Hello.
I am so thrilled to have you on here. And I was actually surprised. It may have been my idea that you're on Nox Mente because I think you would be fantastic on our other show, The Obelisk.
Wow.
So we may have to bring you onto that show.
Oh, we definitely have to.
Yeah, Meredith's
Oh,
got it going. So anyway, let's get into the basics here of the stuff. Let's go back to you as Lil Meredith. And
um,
what's the stuff that you recall that sticks out way back when?
way back when. Okay, so I I think are you talking about like anomalous
And
kinds of
just
stuff?
anything, stuff that actually you have still been able to recall that comes up for you as far back as you can pull into your memory
Okay, so um,
or from your memory.
well, my understanding is that yeah, I was born in 91. So I think as time went on, some of the technology, became a little bit more sophisticated in the way that they do things here. So um, I really, you know, was like fully vaccinated straight out of the gate and, was very, mm, my childhood was very handled. I have like some like dream recall from around then of sort of like, like Men in Black. Like I remember always having, thank you, Terry. Awesome.
It was a synchro, so that's all.
That's hilarious. We have a synchro bell.
Yay. So I remember like Men in Black style dreams, of like them coming into my house, but I don't, and always, like saw certain energies around people and was like super, super creative and like performative. And, but, I really think that a lot of that was shielded from me or like sort of kept from me. Like there was always like a magic that was there just inherently. But in terms of like the, levitating in my bed, there's not really a whole lot of that. Like it was very checkered by magic, but like looking back, it all felt very handled to me, if you know what I
Okay,
mean. Like,
so yes, I do. And we're gonna get into those Men in Black dreams here in a minute, girl.
uh-oh.
Let's look at what was going on in pop culture. Did you like Teletubbies? What kind of
Hmm.
stuff in that realm did you enjoy?
Yeah, so gosh, looking back, it's such a cringe, but like I really enjoyed like Nickelodeon, Disney movies. Oh yeah, there was all of that like sort of Avalon,
Yes.
Save a Ho programming, and just a lot of stuff like that. So um was really big into like princess movies, Wizard of Oz, all the MK Ultra classics, and definitely was really, really like magnetized to the television. I
Yeah.
think there's definitely, and I've just observed a lot of my generation, and so maybe I speak from that perspective, but I've noticed that my generation had that particular pull, or like I could sit in front of this black cube for hours and hours, and yeah, I think like looking back, okay, so even if somebody doesn't have, you know, like I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Like, even if somebody has no trauma whatsoever occur in their life, like I'm pretty sure some of those movies do a pretty good job of they do their job.
Oh yeah, well they're designed to, and they're intelligently designed to. These are masterminds behind all this. Were you
Absolutely.
So when we look at some of that stuff, because this plays into Nox Mente and
Mm.
dreaming and all this, when we look at some of that stuff, what were the characters you identified with? So what were some of the roles? Were you looking for, did the savior stuff? Who attracted you in some of these narratives
Okay.
that you felt identified with?
Yeah, so I really identified strongly with Ariel.
Okay, and the Little Mermaid.
So strongly, and Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
Um, I was her for 3 consecutive Halloweens.
Oh my.
That's some deep MK Ultra, whatever Monarch programming there.
Fuck
There's no
yeah.
place like home.
Oh God, Christ. I know, I'm like, can't we just jump to the part where I tell you about like my experience about 2 months ago with my soul family?
No, hold on, girl. You're getting ahead of yourself.
Oh.
And this is a dream program. This is why I wanted to have you on the obelisk, but this is just an extra treat. So, all right. So these were the kinds of things. What was your relationship with nature?
Well, it was interesting because I loved and hated it. It was really weird. It was like, I think that's one of my primary programmings, if you want to call it that, is like, you know, really enjoying it once I'm out there, but then having a hard time getting out there. So my generation kids were still playing, like, it was still the time when like parents would kick their kid out of the house and don't come back until dinner kind of thing.
Yes.
And so,
oh, you're lucky. You're actually lucky on that because that's not happening anymore.
I know, it's like, don't get off this tablet before dinner.
Right.
Leave mommy alone. Let me drink wine. It's like a whole thing.
Nature online. Nature is online.
Right, exactly. And I think that, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I went to like summer camp and stuff like every summer. And that was very interesting. It was a religious, a very Christian, which I don't know. I mean, there's some good people in the church and in Christianity, but
yes, there are, definitely.
But I think that in itself is a whole ass program. I mean, that's just like, like the good and evil, like sort of duking it out. Right.
Well, I'm doing a whole series right now, pulling the canon apart and showing people that these, especially like the angelic order right now, how they've been everywhere and they're integral in the canon, but they were way before and they're way into modern times, is like the reptilians and all this. These are just angels, angelic orders. And so people have one idea of Christianity and I have another, and it's an interesting little journey I'm on. So yes,
For
with
sure.
that, so I agree with you on that. And there's a lot of magic. People that don't understand the canon don't understand how much magic is in it, how much in the end, to me, it's like a grimoire from the D's period. It's no different. And all those grimoires mention God. People want to forget that and leave that out.
Well, God is very phonetically similar to Gad, which is like the G in Freemasonry.
Well, did you know that God is somehow, Gary Wayne told me this, that it is, I think, is it in Hebrew? It translates to adversary. So imagine God bless you, or that kind of stuff. That's why the deeper Christians use those other terms like this is where I fall short, but Yeshua, Yahusha, right? Or creator, because God itself is adversary. So
Gad means luck or fortunate in Hebrew.
But God is what I'm talking about. Yes. And this is from a very deep scholar. So he's got this all laid out in his book. So
I thought the G in the Masonic symbol represented the great work.
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was Gadriel. Not to like.
No, I think it's a dual meaning. It means God. It also means a great work.
Of course, there's so many different meanings.
Masons, please chirp in here.
See, this is and it's got more than that when you get to the illuminated degree. But this is why this should have been an obelisk with Meredith. Okay, so let's get back to these basics though. So you were brought up Christian,
Catholic.
Oh, and a specific Catholic. All right. And then your relationship with nature was strange. And you mentioned earlier that you were kind of a weird kid, like an outsider. And I say weird in
Oh,
a good way. That's the tribe.
yeah, like just really like I don't know, like always marching to the beat of my own drummer. And as a result of that, I mean, people don't like that kind of thing, even in elementary school or, younger than that, right? So there's definitely a lot of like fall in line kind of energy for sure. So um yeah, but I was definitely I was a little off. I was definitely a little bit off. I think, some emotional stuff started to show up for me, like imbalances around 4 or 5, which is when I think some things maybe possibly started for me. So
Where were you born?
I was born and raised in Charlotte and I never left. I think there's like an anchor or something keeping me here.
Yeah.
Just
I
you.
love
I know. Oh my gosh.
I love Charlotte. It's a beautiful place.
Oh,
And do you have military in your family?
no, but I do have, so no military, very innocuous or inconspicuous, but there are Freemasons all throughout my family. Um, go figure. Um, yeah, so, but my mom, she works in, sort of like purchasing or packaging or inventory or one of those kinds of jobs. And then my dad worked as like a textiles engineer. So
Oh, I like
very,
that.
mhm,
Um, yeah, I was just trying to tie in if there's military because some of the stuff you're saying.
mhm.
Okay, so back in this early period, what were your fears? Were you afraid of under the bed or in the dark?
Oh,
Mm.
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Very afraid of the dark, very afraid of the closet, of the bed, of under the bed. And yeah, definitely like had a sense for like presences, I guess, that didn't feel very beneficial to me. So, you know, definitely had sort of a fear response around that.
Were you how so on that whole sensitive scale, how sensitive were you with energetics?
Mm, more sensitive than I knew.
Mhm.
Like looking back, I think I'm very empathic, which I feel like could have even been like wired into my system, um, as just like a energetic structure to make sure that I was always kind of weighted down with like everybody else's energy, emotions, whatever. Um, so very physically, viscerally sensitive, and I would see shadows and stuff, but that was a little bit more rare.
Yeah. So, all right, let's look at the dreamscape now. When and if it's changed. So, how do you dream? What does it look like for you? And if it's changed. I used to ask if, how I used to segment it into early life and then whatever your later life is. But now I'm just going with how in general do you dream and if it's changed over your life. So, sound, smell, color,
Mhm.
can you read in dreams? All the basic stuff of dreaming.
Yeah, this is a very interesting conversation because for a really, really long time, I would have very vivid, very colorful, very, I don't know, like galactic or like, just mm, more out there kind of dreams that it's so hard for me to remember now. But when I was really young, I would also have like dreams of like past lives, and they weren't the kind of past lives that you'd want to have a dream of at like 4 or 5, they were like really like traumatic actually. Like um and I think that that could have even been inserted too, that I was like um you know, because I was remembering like basically being a whore, like in several past lives, you know,
Mhm.
when I was really young, and I was like, what? You know, I've done a lot of like inquiry to where I would know like if someone had like, you know, touched me like when I was young, you know, so it wasn't anything like that. At least not like in my conscious, you know, my conscious scape, right? But so, you know, or with my family or anything like that, it wasn't. Um, so then I think, you know, I went on medication for like mood issues and stuff when I was like maybe I was young. I was like 10 or 11.
Do you remember what they
Um,
put you on?
let me break out a list. I've been on like
Oh, girl.
oh yeah, I've been on like lithium, Wellbutrin, Paxil, uh, gosh, Seroquel. I'm trying to remember. Like there were so many. Like I
Oh,
was kind
wow.
of
From such a young age.
yeah.
You
So
haven't lived
that's
till you're on Prestique, though.
huh.
You haven't lived until you've been put on Prestique.
Prestige.
Yeah.
What did? Can I
What
ask
is
what
that,
Prestige
Chair?
did to you?
It's an SNRI, just a typical, you know, like, what was that other one I was on? Started with an N, I don't remember. I was on one for years. I used to have
Yeah.
bad anxiety, panic attacks.
Yeah.
I want to say it was Nexium, but that's not it. It's like, it's something close to that. But then
Isn't Nexium that cult?
it is. It's not Nexium. It's like
Yeah.
Nexium, the word. I can't remember it. But then I got put on Prestique, and you know, after you take SNRIs for a while, you start to get like these shocks in your body. Did you ever have those?
Sweet. Well, no, but I've had all kinds of different symptoms.
Yeah.
Like, can I tell you? They were so weird. Okay, so I took this one medication for like, oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing, like 10 years. And it's called Risperidol. It's the one that like makes men grow boobs, you know? So I was on that for years and years and years. And when I was 16, I was in a play and or like a musical or something. And I went in to hug my friend and I was lactating.
Girl.
It was so awful. And then and then I had a lazy eye for like half of 7th grade.
Oh, my.
And oh my gosh, and one time when I was on lithium,
This
so
one
lithium
time?
yeah, this is one time. So lithium toxicity can cause sometimes loose stools, and so one time I did shit my pants on lithium.
Never trust a fart.
Never trust a fart. That's awesome. Great story.
It was too.
Lexapro is what I couldn't remember.
Girl,
Lexapro,
everyone's
that
been
good,
there.
good.
Yeah.
I see. This is one of the reasons why I adore you, Meredith, is that you just throw it out there. I have done this when I go on cruising with Steak. You're talking my
Oh,
language.
yeah. She's going on the future ex-wife list for sure.
Right? Meredith's awesome.
Aw,
Okay, so all right, let's get back to dreams.
back to
So
business.
yes. All right. So, and I do think you should go on cruising with Steak, by the way. So
I don't know what that is.
you can talk to Jerry about that later. I think you will have a good time. These, they're family. We started together with them.
Aw.
Basically, a bunch of our friends. We Zoom every Tuesday night and put it out as a podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I want to
it's a
do it.
panel. Yeah, they're fun. They're really fun.
And we
You will
need
have a good
boobs,
time.
especially lactating ones,
Oh my god.
because there's
It
not
does-
enough. There's not enough chest feeding going on.
There's usually it's just like Suzanne and Lady
She
Eboshi.
never comes on. She's
No more.
not ever.
Oh, okay. So
She just
or
walks
when I
back and forth behind Steve.
when I pull up in there, it's usually just Suzanne and me. So
Yeah.
but anyway, this is this
Boobs
Nox
needed.
Mente is hilarious. Okay, so back to Nox Mente. All right, with the dreamscapes though,
Mhm.
do you ever see in colors or black and white? What's the general color spectrum for you?
Yeah, so I dream in color pretty fully, though there's nothing like that one experience that we're like eventually warming up to that I had recently, like a couple months ago. But because I don't even think like we're seeing color as it would normally be seen here, you know. So
Yes.
but you know, sometimes yeah, I always dream in color, and I don't necessarily smell. I'm not as lucid as I would like to be at this point in time, just because honestly, you know, when when I had a bunch of memory recall in May of last year, I had no idea, Nish, that anything underground, any off-world weirdness, I had no idea about any of that. So it was kind of like I had like the wool, you know, the wool moved out from my eye or whatever. And it was like, oh shit, there's so much. Wow, that's a lot to process. And then leading up to that, I was smoking herb all the time. So that kind of
Yeah.
has its way of, you know, suppressing dreams, in my opinion. Maybe it's not everybody, but it definitely works like that for me. So, you know, I made some choices to kind of like, you know, scale back the intake of herbage. And from there, it was pretty crazy. But before that, like I have this long stint of time. Obviously, I was pretty medicated for a while. So I just had this long stint of time where it was a rarity if I remembered my dream. Though, you know, I mean, you know how it feels when you wake up and you just feel kind of off, you know?
Yes.
Like you
Yeah.
feel like you just went through a lot, but you don't know what it was that you just went through. And that was kind of like a weekly, you know, if not more frequent occurrence, you know.
Okay, so all right, let's get into some early dreams you had. And you already mentioned, I think this might have been or possibly was one of the earlier ones, the Men in Black dream
hmm
or dreams. Was this a series or was it one?
It was honestly like recurring in a really weird, it was like a once a year kind of a dream for a few years. I don't remember the years, but it was where, and it was always the same. It was like the Men in Black had to come into my house to, it was honestly like, it sounds ridiculous, but I guess like kind of
Not on this
observing,
show.
but observing what we're going through now, it's actually pretty appropriate. Like they would come in and take away one member of my family. So at the time, it was like me, my mom, and my dad and my grandma in the house, and they would like kind of, it was like they would like pick a family member off from each house all over the world,
Yeah.
you know. And so it's kind of fuzzy in how it shows up, but just like you know, Men in Black having a hard time seeing their faces, and you know, them taking one of my family members out of the house kind of systematically. And
What
it felt
was
like
the mood?
the mode,
The mood.
the mood, scary, rushed, forced, like abrupt, surprising, you know. And it was like, I don't know. It was kind of like Inception too, now that I think about it. It's all so fuzzy, right? It's like this is such an amnesic universe. But so
Yes.
I remember it, you know, when you wake up and then you have a dream that you wake up, but you really didn't, you're still sleeping.
Yes.
It was kind of like that. And yeah, just really terrifying. And I don't think I saw my family members being like executed in that dream, in those series of dreams, but I do remember them getting taken out of the house kind of like one by one. And then in this dream, it was always the same, where trying to figure out like, okay, so you know, I have this dream one year and like it's my grandma, right, who goes because she's like the oldest. And then I have another dream and it's my mom, and they're just kind of getting picked off one by one, that's about all I remember.
What did they look like? Did you get any good look at them as far as their faces besides being in black uniform?
What I remember is, they were white. Mm,
Were they chalky white, like in Fringe? The seer, I don't remember what they call them in Fringe.
Observers.
Yeah.
Not chalky. I don't know. Now that
I know this is a long time ago. Yeah.
Stretching my brain, but it's good. It's good for me to think about these things, I think. Not yeah, definitely like almost a green kind of tint, not chalky white, but like not like, like a lizard person, like reptilian green, but just sort of like a pale with a green, like just looking like sickly,
Yeah. Yes. And they gave off a kind of a scary like the mood was scary, and they gave off a fear element to them.
It was big, like Hunger Games energy for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And just
when did these stop? How long did they go?
3 years. And I guess, like, if I had to put an age on it, I'd say 4 to 7.
Okay. Yeah, very early.
Yeah, it was tricky. And I think, I was pretty shut down after like 8 or 9 in that realm. But then, and kind of have this like big space where, I have like more memory, I think, from dream time now than I did as it was happening, like over the course of, gosh, like, let's see, I'm 29 now. So yeah, I guess like 20 years where I was pretty shut down, though I always felt very intuitive in this dream.
Yes.
He thinks this is the dream.
When did you get off the meds? Are you still on some?
No,
I know that's personal. Girl, you don't have to answer anything. But you already, we've already talked about sharks. So let's go, girl.
And like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did not just say what I almost said. Okay, so I don't remember what your question was.
How long? Okay, when did they start the meds on you? You said earlier, and I, for some reason, don't have it in my notes.
So I was 10 or 11, and then I got off of them when I was 19.
Okay, so the Men in Black were prior to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's very intriguing. And then
and they were before she was 6 as well.
Yeah. Okay, so and now I want to look at this period, this young period of dreaming. In general, what did you think about? Now, remember, come from it from the stance of you then and not now with your analytics. What did you think about dreaming as a young Meredith? What was it when you wake up, the experience of dreaming? What was it like? We all have different ideas of, because we're in a different place and we're having these different narratives go on.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot happens with how parents interact with us about them. And so what was your stance on dreaming as a young one?
As a young one, I loved it. I've always been really into sleeping. Like I could always just like sleep all day, all night, whatever, I'm the kind of person that, and as a young child, obviously too, like was really into, I think I liked it. I think I enjoyed that space, I never think about the dreams that I had when I was a kid. So I'm like,
It gets shaped. It gets shaped by the adults in our lives who either engage us in that or poo-poo it, or there's just different modes in which our experiences in general, as you know, can
Hmm.
be shaped by those around us, but especially in this formative period. And that's why I always like to get an idea of where people are
Hmm.
before before they get front loaded with all this other information.
Right. So I do have some interesting, sort of like there were dreams that I had, I think, that were cosmic and that were very, very colorful, kind of like the one that I had very recently, that were a little bit less less in the form, less physical, not well, I know like when you dream you can go into like alternate dimensions or of this reality, but it didn't feel anything like that. It felt very, yeah, just I don't know, like I remember doing some flying in dream time. I remember, yeah, just like interacting with beings, different colors.
So aside from, say, the random maybe nightmare or terror and the men in black, you really enjoyed this space, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's what I recall.
So when let's look at, so you mentioned earlier about dreaming of being in other lifetimes. So how did you come to that idea?
I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but now I kind of, well, really like when I was, kind of going through my early, I had a big awakening period in like 2016 where I kind of like was instantly ushered into like the new age
Yeah.
ideology, kind of captured there for a little while. But um, let's see. Yeah, I think that like through that understanding and through the understanding of like, but I don't think I knew it as that then. I think I was just, and I was terrified. I think I talked to my mom about it, and she was like, okay, honey, there was a lot of stuff going on with me that was like, let's put you into counseling, you know? So,
So, and that was around 2016 though.
mhm. Yeah, where I just kind of like, you know, acknowledged the existence of past lives. That's where I was at, at the time. I think I was
Yeah.
pretty in academia too. So, you know.
And this is when you were mentioning having past lives memories,
Mhm.
past life memories. Oh, Mercury, work with me,
Oh goodness,
Mercury.
yeah. Please.
uh, of being a whore in your words.
Well, I was having like sex dreams from another time,
Hmm.
and some of them were pretty graphic and like not, not very nice, not how you treat a lady.
Not enjoyable.
Yeah, where
Right.
you weren't in
Not
control.
consensual.
Yeah, yeah, or you weren't in control.
Mhm.
And when you say other time periods, what did it feel like? What were you able to identify with the time periods?
Like 20s.
Okay.
That was like a really strong, sort of theme. Maybe even before that, I kind of like I was watching a documentary. This was a couple years ago now on like Jack the Ripper, and I kind
Yes.
of got like a vibe, like I caught like a chill up my spine, and I was like, that feels vaguely familiar. But then at the same time, like, I mean, this is where I'm at right now, Niche. I feel like those dreams could have been inserted.
Yes. Well, that, and we can get into that.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And it's very possible that you were somehow interfaced and that stuff was inserted.
Yeah.
The Jack the Ripper period is a period of time I also identify with, but not with that specific narrative, but
Hmm.
that time period is a strong one for me. As I sit here, I'm kind of in that kind of modern version of that kind of clothing. So
Aw.
I know, I love it. Penny Dreadful period. And
I love
so,
that.
all right, so let's look at more of the dream construction stuff. We got moving into a little bit of how and when have you felt that you were most lucid? So you mentioned that that's kind of or at least early on, that was elusive to you.
Yeah, I think you're talking about lucidity.
Yes.
hmm Yeah, so I definitely have felt like I have to, it takes work for me, or like, deliberate effort for me to have a lucid experience. Like after fasting, oh my gosh, I just like lay down and then I like stand up, but
Yes. Oh, that's a big deal.
fasting is huge. But at the same time, I think I probably was lucid dreaming when I was younger and I just don't remember. Like before pre pre-shart, no, pre-medication.
Oh, girl, I love you.
Oh my gosh. I
Lord have
really,
mercy.
you know, so yeah, I so now it's a little bit more effortful, but I'm sure, early on I'm sure it was jamming. I just don't have too much memory other than just like swirls of colors, mm, you know, sort of cosmic feeling. But, um, yeah, lucidity has been a challenge to achieve, though I think with sobriety, for me personally, that is where it becomes like, and not sleeping with technology in the room.
Yeah. Oh, this is major. It's one of those things that I highly encourage is to unplug stuff and power strips, turn them off,
hmm
get all the power sources to the wall. It's
Yeah.
very, very important, especially right now. I mean, it's more important now than ever. Unplug the internet and all the power strips,
hmm
turn them off. So just for the radiation factor alone.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. But then, like, there's, yeah, there's a lot of dream hacking, I guess, and kind of
It's fuckery.
some
yes.
BS. Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, I discovered. So this was a couple months ago too, where I woke up in a dream kind of, and I remember like feeling like I was on the astral version of Amazon, like the website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is interesting.
And in that particular, it was almost like a vacation, like a destination that people could go to if they wanted to go to. I don't know, you know. And I remember, and so how like in a dream, this is notable, I guess, like how um like a demonic sort of energy or principality can kind of like seem like a person or like
Yes.
appear like a person, but like that they are like after you,
Mm-hmm.
or like, demonic, shady, weird. So this man had on like black and red, you know, and was like following me around, and I knew that he was a demon, so I was like, okay, I'm going to get away from you. I'm going to get away from you. And then I kind of had like some time of non-consciousness or whatever, like, lost lucidity for a little while, and then in the latter part of that dream I was eating in a dark restaurant, and then there's that guy again, from the Amazon astral plane place. Like that's how deep it goes. People don't realize like the corporations and stuff, like it's beyond this dimension. You know that. Jerry knows that. We all know that, but it's
You're
just
mentioning something very significant here, Meredith. I almost said Marilyn.
you can call me whatever you want.
I'm that same way. I've got to go by a million names. Anyway, but this is very significant. And before I started to understand and categorize what it was. I was having in that same dreamscape with the, if you want to call it the Amazon, the etheric Amazon, but it's these big warehouses, and there's all
Mhm.
this processing going on, and it's something that I think more and more as we move deeper into the world, this timeline that we're on in the world, and the more we cut it up and look at it, its components, and
Mhm.
start to identify separate aspects of it, it's creating a bigger, I'd say, the macro version of it is looking very interesting. Let's put it at that. And
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of people are starting to have this. And then there's interesting research going on in the world about how dream hacking, which is out of the woo now, it's out of the woo world,
Mhm.
and is coming online, and how we are possibly being affected through dream hacking and dream
Mhm.
interfacing. And now there is, I can't remember where, but there's starting to be talk about ethics involved with this, like they are talking about outer space and all this, with ethics of whose territory is what and all this. So we're starting to talk about ethics with this, because this stuff's online, people, it's happening. And
Just Google deep dream.
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
I honestly think it's an extension of this phenomenon where you think about something or you say it out loud and then it shows up in one of your social media feeds or something. You know, like that whole, you know what I'm talking about, right, Nish?
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah, where you just think in your head, I wonder I should look up, exercise bikes, and then boom, you start getting exercise bike ads.
Oh
That
yeah,
I think
totally.
I think the dream hacking, air quotes here, may be related to that. Some kind of
Or
Yeah.
like, if you're like me and you're like half lucid, like trying so much, eating all the oranges before you go to sleep so that you can, because that helps me to have lucidity. But um, you know, I can like remember too, like waking up in a dream and I'm signing something. Like I feel like they just really,
Contracts.
oh yeah, there's tons of that. I think tons of agreements of entrapment, basically, for lack of a better word. So I've gotten in the habit of like breaking any agreements that I made unknowingly while I was asleep, like first thing in the morning.
Well, keep in mind
Shit that we
that
should not have to do. Like this is BS.
absolutely, but keep in mind any contracts you sign in the astral plane are only, related to the astral plane, not your
You
physical
don't think
body.
they bleed over?
Uh-uh.
I don't
Well,
know.
this comes into interesting territory, because etheric field, it could just be everything, and this could just be a fractal of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get into all that really juicy fodder,
Mm-hmm.
that philosophical stuff. And again, this is where the ethics of this kind of dream interfacing is starting to become a conversation in the world.
God, of course it's not. I mean, thank creator. No, but it's becoming, of course it's not ethical, but neither is that kind of like creepy surveillance capitalism that Jerry's talking about, Like, oh, I think maybe I'll apply to be a social worker. I just like had that thought in my head, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing like MSW programs, it's like,
But the way they're weaving it around, and so the dream space has become the talk on it, the verbiage around it is much the same way in which we conceptualize the internet, right?
mm-hmm.
Where it should be this free open space, and yet we're being controlled through it. And
Mm-hmm.
uh and you have all sides that say, well, there should be censorships here, and you shouldn't be able to access this without this. And this is the way now this field
Mm-hmm.
this consciousness field is being sussed out through all kinds of different technologies that involve our neurointerfacing, and we're seeing this
Absolutely.
languaging around, like I said, the idea of space, at least, which is interesting because that's a field theory in and of itself.
This is
And
space right here.
Space.
It's right here.
Yeah.
space,
is
the
right here.
final frontier.
It's all in your head.
It is, well, it's the etheric field to me,
It's
but
like right here. Like that's the thing too about like planets and stuff, because I'm an astrologer. Like, so that's been like a huge, because I kind of feel like they're just like different planes of existence, you know, and it's as simple as perhaps like reaching out your arm, you know, space, right? But or, you know, maybe we are the stargates, or you know.
No, the Stargate's in Antarctica.
all roads, all conspiracies lead to Antarctica, for real. That is
Oh,
the Taurus.
seriously.
That's the Taurus field.
Mm-hmm.
That's like Mount Meru 0.0. Okay, so back to Nox Mente. When we're talking about you in dream space, though, and identifying these things that are possibly dream hacking or interfacing with technology via your dream space, which is a deep, which is a lot of deep woo for some people. It's a lot of deep woo, but it ain't woo.
Yeah, it's reality. Like reality.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, in some ways, I guess reality only exists if you observe it. Like, if a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound? But at the same time, like, you don't have to be aware that it's happening for it to happen, you know?
Well, we're playing it out. We're constantly playing these things out. So your thoughts are playing out a reality.
No, you
And
should think of it this way, that nothing makes sound. It generates waves in the ether that your ear picks up and translates into sound.
That is so deep.
It's real, though. It's
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is energy at the end of the day.
A lot's happening in the blackness of your brain. And your optic nerve goes to the very back. Remember this. And so when we get behind the eyes, this is a very important idea, especially thinking about dreams, thinking about intersecting dreams with video games, that analogy, when you can be first player and get behind the eyes, right? Or you can be third viewing it. We have these points of context, and that give us more information and more data. And so our senses are what we consider our physical senses. And this is not reaching out to all the other senses, just the physical senses and the physical plane all tie into that. And then when we start wefting out, right? Then we're talking about psychic senses and all the clairsenses, and it becomes very complex, but it does not need to be. And this is why the portal of dreams is an important aspect to start trying to master, if you will, get to that third degree. And so when you're dreaming, how do you know something is not you? When it feels like you're encountering something that's sentient or other than you, other than your own psyche.
Yeah. So, well, okay. I think, you know, I have a knack for like identifying foreign energy, but I also don't know if, you know, because I've had this said a lot to me as well. Oh, your dreams are just your unconscious or subconscious mind working itself out. And like, I think that's true part of the time. And then other times I think dreams can be like cover memories, or, you know, like maybe real, like maybe there's simulated other dimensions that people are on, and maybe there's non-simulated other dimensions. I mean, because, you know, that's the thing about the Matrix. Like, if you have a soul or whatever, like, you're in here and you're outside of here. So it's just crazy. Like there's so many different things that it could be. But to get back to your question, yeah, I don't know if I'm dreaming and I'm identifying something that feels non-beneficial, like that demon, the demon man, it's just a feeling, like like an instinct. And, or like when you see something that's holographic, that's like a good indicator that it's placed or is being handled for me. That's something, because I have had dreams where like I'll fall asleep too close to my phone on accident at a friend's house, and suddenly I'm dreaming in like a virtual reality or like a, mm, like I'm in a literal video game,
Mm-hmm.
like inside of Pac-Man. Like it doesn't even have to be that fancy or advanced, but it's definitely, yeah. So that's why like I'm still picking apart that for myself, like how to discern. Because okay, like when I got my memories back, so 3%, 2% of my memories, maybe, right? I um I saw them as visions, some of them in my dreamscape, and I thought that they were prophetic when maybe they were like a simulated end times experience in the projects, or so it's like I am still working to kind of like figure out, okay, was there an aspect of that was real, maybe other reality, or was that just my mind doing its thing? Because I have definitely had dreams where I'm a purple girl in a purple world, and that feels like it's straight out of my like my psyche, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to parse. And so let's look at the idea of you pulling out prophetic stuff. Have you ever felt that in the old term, girl, they used to call it dreaming true. And I grew up with that term
Mm-hmm.
in the dream world, dreaming true. Some people call it prophetic dreams, all that, but have you experienced this phenomena where you dream and somehow, and separate from deja vu, we'll get into that, but where you dream and then something, it plays out? So, and it can be oftentimes it is actually oftentimes mundane stuff.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, so actually it's funny because I have a lot of this show up in my relationships where like I'll have a dream that, if I'm in a partnership with someone, where they break up with me and then later on they'll break up with me, or um it's funny too, now that I mentioned relationships, how many of my relationships started because someone said, I had a dream about you,
Mm.
that we were this, this, and this, only had to happen 3 times before I kind of like noticed that maybe something was off with that. you know, you ever get into
What do you
any of,
think? What do you think about that now?
well, just judging by the quality of the people that I was in relationship with, I would say that shit was handled AF. Like that was not even, I don't, it was always the same pattern, like recovering alcoholic, lots of baggage,
Yeah.
and I had a dream about you, and that was always like something that played out. And actually, I had like sort of a memory not too long ago where I like saw like my ex-boyfriend and we were on like some kind of ship or whatever, not exactly too like clear on where we were, but there were beings there and humans, and they were like taking, it was like there was a row of dudes and then there was a row of girls, and it was like they were being matched up by like taking some of their signature and like putting it into like taking some of the guy's signature, putting it into the girl's etheric field. And then, you know, that's why like always there was such a like synchronistic feeling that went along with the like with that person specifically. I was like, I fell hard into the twin flame thing. I fell fucking face first into that. Regrets.
Well, that's that
but,
new age programming. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And it's just that new age programming is pretty insidious too, because it feels good, you know, and then you just like loop, you know. But so yeah, so I think that that's like the realm of a relationship is where that commonly plays out. Like having a dream that somebody cheated on me, or having a dream that in my micro, though at the beginning of last year I did start to have what I thought were prophetic dreams, but still remains to be seen, of just like total AI dystopia takeover. And this is before I ever like looked into anything. I mean, I was an astrologer. I was in the work. I was doing soul work, you know, really good stuff at the time, I thought, and I still think that. But I hadn't delved into any conspiracy materials. So seeing, you know, like cyborgs running around and it being kind of like a war zone, and a dream that I had January around the time of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction.
Yes.
That was pretty wild. It was very, I think that was probably also
Take us into that dream,
shit.
Meredith. Take us into that one.
Okay, so it was kind of like there was a lot of like different like buildings burning, and there's, you know, these two sides, right? There's like the humans, or like I'm gonna say organic, free range, fair trade humans, you know.
Yes.
And then there were like, yeah, people, no one I knew. There was nobody I knew in this dream, and it did not feel like Charlotte. It felt like somewhere else. I don't know, but just people with like robot appendages, and you know, and just me like running. Like that was kind of and that dream has shown up a couple of times where I'm just like running, just feeling like there's an imminent threat to my safety and my life, you know, and just maybe some like advanced technology, you know, like it's so hard to describe, right? Because there's no like, we don't have even like words. Oh, maybe there are words, I just don't know them, but just like
cybernetic.
Cybernetic. Yes, Jerry's coming through. But yeah, so that's the like cybernetic weapons, or like guns that it was like you okay, so you know how like in the way back, like outside of here, like you could think of something and then it's just right there, you know. It's like you like dream of an apple and then the apple exists, you know, in your hand, right? It's very like, it's different. But this was like that, but it was engineered. So it was like, if you want to say a cybernetic gun, it was like somebody thought the thought, and then the sort of like the interface showed up in their hand. So it was pretty like, it's pretty advanced, but I don't know any, I mean, you know, I'm just piecing this together myself. So,
well, you're pretty new to, like, when I had you on the Cosmic Salon, you were, you mentioned like last May was when you really started to come into some of the more, I guess, manipulated aspects of the reality that we're all participating in.
The prison planet thing.
Yes. And so before that, I mean, I think that's a good thing for people to kind of grasp. Before that, you were not exploring these ideas and seeing how that stuff's kind of playing out. and we
Mm-hmm.
talk about it a lot, but I just think that's important. So this is all kind of new verbiage for you to play around with. You were
Mm-hmm.
not at this point, and it's one of those things where you don't see until you do see.
Right.
And
For sure.
and this is the thing, and it's a difficult path. It can be lonely, and you
Mm-hmm.
can lose a lot of friends on that path because you're like,
Check.
how do you, yes, right, how do you not see this fuckery going on? And your friends are all like, girl, you're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and you're in the middle of going through that, really.
Oh yeah. Though, yeah, man, the friends fell off quick.
Oh yeah, they do, they absolutely do.
I also want to mention you are currently in your Saturn return.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Wow. Bonus points. Yes, I am. Yeah,
29, baby.
I had it exact on January like 15th or something.
Yeah.
Whew, that was pretty serious. And then today there's that square between Saturn and Uranus.
Yes.
So I'm just getting it from all sides, you know, but definitely I'm enjoying. I mean, gosh, like I would rather know than not know, and I would rather grow than not grow, you know.
Yes. Absolutely. And it's I mean, people don't understand that this is not easy territory for people to come to terms with.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said earlier, it can be very isolating when everyone that you thought loved you will ditch you so fast, especially these days.
Oh
And
yeah.
yet you can't not see what you see. It's like the glasses and they live. All of a sudden you put
Mm-hmm.
them on and you see how this engineering is going on around you, and
Mm-hmm.
how real it is. It is unbelievable, and it's life changing. And
Mm-hmm.
so I give you kudos
Thank you.
for walking strongly, Meredith, because it's challenging. A lot of people want to just, the scene with the guy in the Matrix, have that steak, right?
Mm.
And enjoy the steak and the wine and
Mm-hmm.
go back into that. And
Right.
so I'm proud of you, girl, and you know this.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I feel it. And it's yeah, it's definitely interesting and has taught me so much. And I think like I I don't think I would have been able to handle it potentially if I hadn't been doing, because I was doing pretty deep work, you know, inner child work and like ancestral healing and all of that kinds of stuff before I even arrived. You know, I'd done a lot of retrieval work, and I also dealt with entities a lot, especially as I started to wake up more. And like, it was actually right around the time that I got ushered into the new age. Imagine that. It's like turning on like a fucking LED light on a dark street, you know?
The whole New Age movement is just infested with those things.
Oh my gosh, it's so bad.
If you can perceive them, you should watch a Reiki session sometime and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Dude, I am level 2 attuned.
Oh, okay.
Not that I don't practice Reiki anymore, and I actually like removed my attunements, and I
good
like, yeah, because those symbols are like cursed, like legit, like they like like they disconnect you from your spirit. Like,
they're portals. They connect other entities to you.
Well, this gets back to what we were talking about earlier. See, the optics of it is, it goes in, if you're viewing it, it's touching your brain. It's moving through the optic nerve and physically touching you. So these are sigils. These are this is all very powerful magic in the end. And it's like, well, it's like Linda. Is this a good witch or is this a bad witch? You know, it's neutral in the end. But
it's all relative.
Jerry, what, you're muted?
I said it's all relative.
You're still muted, baby.
Sorry, it's all relative.
Absolutely. But when we start thinking on those, in those terms, at least, that we're taking in visually and sound waves into the darkness of the brain, right?
Hmm.
And this is where the dream stuff is very interesting, because what do we do when we dream? We close our eyes. So there
Right.
we are. We close our eyes and we're in the theater of the mind right there. And then the
Hmm.
portals happen from there. So
Hmm.
sigils that have been implanted within your psyche, so to
Hmm.
speak, in the blackness of your brain, in the etheric field from
Yes.
the apparent outer world, can activate there. And this is what we're talking about with the hacking and the interfacing of some of the tech that's out there. But it also is where you can gain a lot of control. And I think you're starting to get this, right?
Definitely.
In that
Yeah.
space.
So over the last several months, because I already had like a pretty regular self-healing energy work, sort of like routine where I like, it's maintenance, right? You gotta, it's like you take a shower for your physical body, and then you like clear out for your energetic bodies. And so I have definitely over the last several months been able to perceive certain things like Fibonacci
Mm,
spirals or like
yes.
unsacred geometry, and just there's all kinds of stuff too, like even just like from an energy healing perspective of like there's like etheric machinery that I've been able to clear off myself. And I do notice that there are shifts when I do that work in my ability to be lucid and to be more myself in dream time, and not make choices in there that I wouldn't make here. It's tricky.
Yes. Well, this is the really great aspect and very magical side to it, is
Mm,
how it's all woven together.
totally. Like
And when you gain control and you become the creator, right? The dreamer awakens within the dream.
mhm,
This is a powerful moment, and this becomes more powerful. So yes, the
mhm,
unsacred geometry, but the sacred geometry also, because you can make that program work for you.
mhm. Yeah. I mean, it's like, but the thing with that is, it's like, if I didn't put it there, I don't want it there.
But
Get
okay,
out.
so let's get into that.
Yeah.
What are you? Like, in the bigger world, what are you that you're not that? You know what I'm saying? So it's what it
Yeah.
says, like, if you can experience it, you are not it. So this is
Hmm.
philosophical, but when we start parsing out the idea of dreams, and the
Hmm.
dreamer feeds the dreamer loves the dreamer awakens within the dream. What am I? Am I dreaming? Am I the actual dream? Am I the sigil of the dream, or the facsimile of it? And
Hmm.
what is my outer life that I'm having that I plug into and get into a player mode with? And so that, I guess I'm throwing that out to you, Meredith.
Interesting. Yeah, gosh, like I'm gonna have to just sit with that and chew on it for a few days. It's so deep. It's like, am I me or am I my observer? Who is the I that is inside of my brain?
Well,
And then
especially
it's
as
like,
we understand this new tech that's going on. So we have more to play with now than, say, they did 100 years ago or 200 years ago, when they were starting to play with the ideas of existentialism and all this.
mhm.
Right now there's more on our table that is starting to explain the ideas of what reality could be.
Hmm. Yeah, this is so deep. I'm gonna have dreams about this probably.
Okay, so let's talk on this level.
Mhm.
Do you have out of body experiences?
So, not really. I've had two that I can very consciously remember in my life. The first one was when I was a teenager. It was super random. And it was like I was sleeping, but I was wide awake. Like I laid down and then I stood up kind of thing. Not like a
Yes.
not like I
Yes.
didn't meditate myself into an outer body experience, but definitely had that experience. So I was like, well, shit, what am I going to do now? So I just decided to go up. So I was like, see what's going on out there, go to space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's totally legit. And that's how a lot of people first experience being out of body. That's how it
Mm-hmm.
happened for me. I was just laying there and all of a sudden I realized I was like Alice, right? Stretching and being really long and then getting really small and then like spinning. And I'm like, what is going on here?
It is like the
And
Alice in Wonderland thing. Like
it,
you can make yourself small if you want to. You can make yourself big if you want to.
yes.
So I just decided to go up. So I like went up, on my roof, and then I tried to go further up, like less limitations, right, than here. But so I was like going up, going up, going up. I was like, oh, here we go to space, and then it was like, zzz, zzz, and I just couldn't, I couldn't get out.
Were you hitting a boundary or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt like I was kind of being zapped, like, nope, you're not going to go up there. Like, you're not going to go further than that.
Oh my, that's interesting. What
It felt very electrical, huh?
Oh, it felt electrical too.
Mm-hmm. In
And
that space.
How old were you when that happened?
Maybe I was 16.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think
other times when that happened?
Yes, this was, and so this is very few and far between for me. I'm still doing like a lot of like heavy metal elimination and stuff like that, and still I'm doing all the things. Like I'm keeping a dream journal, and I'm like tapping myself on my chest 3 times every day, and I'm like random times throughout the day of like, am I dreaming? But when this happened a few months ago, it was pretty much like, I'm not trying to sound like passively suicidal or whatever, but it made here look like some BS. I was like, oh, great, here I go. I wake up, like, okay. So I fasted for 3 days, and I did just water, and then I had an orange right before I fell asleep, because I think oranges help. I don't know. That just seems to be my impression. Like every time I have an orange before bed, I have like a more vivid experience. So it was kind of the same thing where I was like, I laid down, I fell asleep, and then I stood up, and I was like, oh shit, this is pretty cool. And, so what do? I decide that I'm going to go up. And so I go up, and I have been pretty much asking for like my family outside of here to let me know that you're there, like, hey, what's up, ET phone home kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And definitely had received some like symbolic confirmation in my dreams, or what I received as symbolic, but other than this was like magical. I mean, so I got up and I got on my roof, and then I went up, and then I was like, here I go, here I go, here I go. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna break through, and then I broke through the containment, because that's why I think that the containment is less than it was, even though of course we have the the 5G or whatever. But so when I got out, it just felt like water. But not water like we're drinking, but like it felt like very liquid, and it was very dark. Like it wasn't not dark in like in terms of like evil, but it was dark. It was like there was nothing. But then I met my soul family, like, and they are. Can I share with you?
Oh, please, we're listening, girl.
Who I am? Okay, so here in the inverse or whatever, sirens or like siren fairies get a really bad rap, right? Like they sing and they kill men, and that's kind of like what they do here. But it's kind of like that, but like if you were to invert that, it was like the beneficial kind of siren, sort of fae, not embodied. So it was very much just like a swirl of colors, and the kind of colors that you don't see here. Maybe when I was younger, but not anymore, right? So, but like, I guess like teals, golds, blues, just really beautiful. And they were not hive-minded, but they were very connected. And I was like, oh my God, I have felt so displaced my whole entire life. And I think that's why, because there was this like very strong connection, and it was just like I was reuniting with. It was so beautiful. I like think about it, I get emotional. And so, but I'll go to the woods, that's where I connect with them, because they connect with me here and like waking time through sound. Like I'll hear certain chords, or it has a very distinct difference from like the tinnitus, like that off, like fucking dissonant frequency that you hear,
Yes.
So yeah, they don't have like a place, like a star system or whatever. They're pretty nomadic. This is just what they shared with me, not telepathically even, it was through sound. Because but they just migrate around, and I got caught up in here. So for eons, I think, it's just.
Well, the time thing is so interesting because it feels so real. I mean, that's the thing with this whole plane, right?
Yeah.
It's such a full engagement experience that it's all these senses and all the neurons, and I mean, it's real.
Yeah.
But it's real in an augmented kind of way, in the way
It was heavily tampered with. I mean, like, we have like a reptilian brain for a reason, is my thought on it. That's why, like, now, I mean, and it was already kind of like this before, but ever since I had like that big shattering last year, I'm just like, every thought, every emotion, I take it captive, because I'm just like, I don't fucking know. Like, this could just be, who knows, I don't even think we know what real emotion feels like. I think we're all just like hormonal,
yes,
messes in here.
Isn't that this is such a very good observation, and it's hard to get this across. So everyone just strip out the woo-woo, strip out everything else. When we look at our hormonal system, right, and how much control it has over us. So and it's easy to parse this out through our lives, like preteen, before say like the sex hormones start to come into play, and that stuff, unless you were conditioned into that kind of kitten programming and all that, which a lot of us got, and Disney certainly gave us. But as far as like the real, true, when you first started to understand when the hormones start pumping, and you're like, oh my, you get this hardcore, the feels, right? the feels. And then when you understand, when you get to the point of masturbation, you realize, oh wow, this has a lot of control over us. And that's one of the reasons why I use that as the example,
Mm-hmm.
because it's only one aspect. We start thinking about serotonin and our adrenal glands, and we start throwing in all the stuff on those systems
Hello?
of the body. Are you there, Jer? Are you there, Meredith?
Yeah, I'm here. You said serotonin and then kind of
Oh,
lost you.
I probably roboted out. So, of course, during this,
I'm shocked. Yeah.
so
No, you didn't.
then so when we start looking at how much control over our choices that just the hormonal system has,
Mm,
it's easy to pinpoint it when we talk about our sex glands, because I think everyone who knows when that stuff starts coming online and you start having sexual feelings, real ones, and you get these urges, you know what I'm saying? And that
mm-hmm.
stuff is really easy to identify. Or when something scary happens to you and you get that, adreno, that whole like that set of hormones comes in. and
Mm-hmm.
and so if we think about the control that has over us, that
Right.
is the easiest way for me to explain to people at the very base level, because that's what we're working with on the very base level, how all the rest of this works, right, Meredith? It's
Yeah.
all a form of control in this system.
Mm-hmm.
And these are just systems that are not subtle when they start coming online.
Yeah.
When your sex drive comes online, it comes online.
Mm-hmm.
And when your fear, your fight or flight is there, you sense it. When you get cut, that sensation of pain,
Mm-hmm.
affects those nerve endings, and we
Yeah.
get it. So what this can be all reconditioned and facsimiles of this in taking people and putting them in clinical examples in clinical rooms and detaching them from everything real with sensory deprivation, and then
Mm,
eating in the information, and none of it's real, and yet they're having these real experiences. This is in the science labs, this is out in the real tech world, and
mm-hmm.
this is why we need to question how controlled we really are. You think you have choices, and so much of it is overriding that.
Yeah. The more, because I wouldn't consider myself to be even like fully awake. I mean, I think that it's a process of like uncovering and discovering and like researching and putting that all together. Um, but yeah, like, oh gosh, what was I going to say? It was about, sorry, had it. Oh, the more that I, progress or whatever, evolve, the more that I think that like so many of our choices, so many, like way more than like we would think, are actually engineered.
Yes.
Um, like, I mean, like, it's kind of like there's an app for that. Oh, well, there's a program for that, right? Like I went through a lot of those, like Catholicism, academia, the new age, and, there's like relationship dynamic programming and templates, and and then it's kind of like I think somebody said something recently where it's like, you have all of these options. Like if you want a soda right now, you could like, go to the store and put your mask on, like a good little whatever, I'm just being a shithead. But so, you can go to the store, you can go, and you have all of these options, but it's not really like we're not free in any capacity, right? So it's like, I don't know. It's like there's so many options, and it keeps people so comfortable and so cozy in their little prisons,
Well, this is why I like to bring it home to our own system. So like
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone can relate to, this is why sex is a big deal. you think everyone can relate to bad decisions around sex because your hormones are thumping, right?
Yeah.
And and then if you mix in like other factors like alcohol and stuff, but I know personally that there were times, 1996 was a great year, but there were times when I was like, I I want to have sex right now, and I felt like I had no control over it. And
Yeah.
this is not in the land of woo. That is a hormonal drive, and
Hmm.
it takes your conscious you out of the driver's seat, and it
Right.
can control you. And so, and then you can get control back. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we could dive in on that, but
Hmm.
that is an example. And we start taking that into the world of technology, that where just your own hormonal system can overwrite your greater will, your higher power,
Oh yeah.
and take you places. So if you imagine weaponizing that on subtle levels and in other ways and other uh, actual processes that are going on
Hmm.
in the blackness of the brain, this is a very big deal. And this is why dreaming is a portal to start to see how all this functions. And
Hmm.
now there is that part of dreaming where you're decompressing, right? You're decompressing the chatter of the day. The body is going into repair mode. The mycoplasma is coming in and eating the decay, eating off the dead cells and doing what it does.
Hmm.
And so there's a repair function going on autonomically. And then if we are trained, and we've been training ourselves to access other layers of consciousness, other dimensions of consciousness through getting up out of the brain,
Hmm.
because we know we're more than that, right? We're
Oh
more than
yeah.
the brain. And so this is the stuff when you started to see the workings around you in last May, that's where you were.
Yeah, it was really, it's interesting. I think a lot of people come to conspiracy, truth, reality, information, um, like through research. And I have definitely like, I don't know. I mean, I went down a rabbit hole or two, like back in the day, like in 2010, 2012, there was all that like Illuminati stuff, was coming out. And I looked at it, but I was like, this has nothing to do with my reality, maybe just kind of brushed it off or whatever. But, so coming into, yeah, last year and having those inner experiences and then like trying to research to find like context for what I was remembering. I mean, I think some of the memories I had came through in dreams, and other memories were more like waking time. But yeah, so stressful, but worth it. Worth it in the sense that I don't know, you do the work and you just like believe yourself. Like that's just an interesting thing, isn't it? How like you can't be gaslit to a certain point, because you just trust yourself.
Well, it's doing the magic on yourself. It's starting
Mhm.
to it's deprogramming yourself
Yeah.
and trusting yourself. And this is why dream work is essential. This is why we want to go in and start separating who am I from the rest of
Right.
everything. And so with small bits of tech, like even putting on a pair of blinders, right? Or sitting in a blacked out room with your eyes open, right? So this is kind of, we're working into the idea of possibly active imagination
Mhm.
or open eye dreaming.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
It needs to be in blackness. So deprivation tanks are amazing for this. And so you can get to that same state of consciousness of knowing that the openness of the black room that is everything. And this could be called the black cube, but through this labyrinth that is you can then access these points of consciousness, like stars out in the sky, where you see
Right.
other points of consciousness happening, and they're all going off, the twinkling, and then you can recognize your twinkle from the other twinkles. And this is, I think, some of the power in the dream space. And by using this and by accessing it, this is where that whole idea of time travel really comes in, when we're working these loops on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And these are very doable techniques. And I can't stress enough that these are techniques of awakening, and time travel is in that folder. It's in the folder with lucid dreaming. It's in the folder with OBEs. It's in there. It's in the folder with with breath exercises. It's in the folder with all this stuff that got co-opted by the new age.
Then, oh man, it's so interesting how like I'm having a lot of like mental interference because I'll have something really interesting to contribute and then it just goes away. So yeah, I was gonna say like even like when you say sensory deprivation, are you talking about like a float tank or like a sensory like is it a different?
There's a lot of yes, a float tank's a very good example where you're in the water, but there's, back in Greek and Roman times, they actually had necromantiums where they would have the Sibyls and the Pythias were housed. You go back into the blackness of the caves, and these oracles are back in there. And so it's so you could go consult an oracle, but you could also create a necromantium in and of yourself, where it's literally just pitches of black. And then, there are observable rituals that some people have if you need those kinds of outlines. But just being in a pitch black space where you can't see anything, where you can't feel, so you need to be comfort's a good idea, because you want to get out of your sensate self.
Yes.
This is why dreaming is a good thing, because in the portal of dreaming, you're getting out of that space, except for in the dream, your body lets you know you need to pee, and then that imagery comes through, right? So you're still tethered to your vehicle. You're still tethered to your bio suit. But so that's what I mean by that. We got kitty sharing going on behind the scenes, y'all.
Yeah.
Well, she showed hers before I had to show mine.
Oh, that's right. I forgot I did. Okay.
Snickers just finally showed up, so.
Aw. But so yes, that's what I mean. And an easy way to do it, since we have great tools now, are those float tanks. Fantastic way.
Oh, I love float tank. Gosh, I'm such a Pisces moon. I feel like I could just like be in the water all of the time. Oh my gosh. I love it. That's adorable. Sorry. No, I could see that it is an important thing, I think, to cultivate dream awareness. It's more important than I originally recognized. One thing that's interesting is none of my new age teachers really harped on that. I never asked, I guess, but at the same time, I think it's so crucial to have, it's just like, I don't know. And are you familiar with the OA, Nish?
Yes, very. I got triggered when I watched it. I only just encountered it, by the way, and it triggered me so hard. I had to kind of breathe through that.
Dude, it's literally like they put so much real shit.
They loaded that up. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It was, I mean, like I said, I had to breathe through that.
They both came to see you.
The
Oh my
aw,
gosh, I love it.
boo-boos. They're like twins almost.
Oh my
They
gosh.
and it brings to into the game here uh movement, certain movements, so Sanskrit type movements,
Mhm,
and breath, right?
mhm.
It brings in the whole thing of how we can alter the reality we're in
Mhm.
and get up out of it. And this is real tech,
Yeah.
and it's ancient tech. We see this way back from it's in the monks talk about these kinds of things.
Mhm.
This is nothing new, and the OA really brings that into the modern uh eye,
Yeah.
collective eye to see.
Yeah, I think she says at one point, or somebody says, like within the human mind is a multiverse in and of itself, you know.
Yes.
And gosh, it's so interesting because I guess, I mean, you'd probably have a similar experience where you've probably experienced everything under the sun sort of in dream time, you know, where you experience like horrible nightmare terror, you know, dreams. And then there's also, you know, like the example of me meeting my soul family, which was just literally like, don't wake me up, you know, I would, you know, but yeah, it's just, there's such an incredible range. There's an incredible range. And oftentimes for me, it is more mundane now, though I have been able to, outside of that one experience, I have been able to fly a few times when I felt like I was in a jam, you know, a gym jam.
When you fly and the times you've flown, how did you do it?
Oh, I don't know, strength of will. It was like, oh, I got to get the fuck out of here kind of a situation, you know? So it
And
was pressure.
And okay, so it's like fight or flight. And then how did you fly though? Were you in a bubble? Were you Superman like? Were you
Yeah,
flapping?
it was like Superman like, or just kind of, you know, I had the stream not too long ago where Men in Black, but a different kind of Men in Black. So I had a dream where I was like in this hotel. It was a really elaborate, long, complicated dream, but it started out with like me and a friend of mine, you know, getting ready to go down to the lobby for the hotel room. And, you know, and then when we came back up from the lobby, which that was like a long, like twisty dream, but, you know, I remember seeing like this like it was like almost like two twin guys, and they both had black masks on, and they were wearing all black, um, and
Did they have one or two
they
masks on?
they had one of the you know, the blue like sort of medical masks that have like the awesome stuff on the inside, I feel like, you know, the one that came out of like the China deal. And then just a black one, you know, really like, you know, new normal fashion kind of,
Yeah, yeah.
anyway, so not really, they just had like black masks on. And it's interesting how that pervaded my dreamscape, though I think this was something like this felt real, or it felt like it wasn't just my mind, you know, exclusively doing its thing. So I was headed back to the hotel room, and there was somebody walking behind me and then in front of me. And I was with my friend at the time because, you know, you mentioned like losing all your friends, right? Not really, not all of my friends. You know, I have some people who stayed, but this person, you know, in real life is like very scientific and very, but not really scientific, but just like believe science, like, you know, NASA, you know, just very like in that whole program, you know.
The cult of science, and not really
Oh
the
yeah.
real.
And it,
Yeah.
and statism really, like, you know, which is whatever. So in that space though, I started to like elbow him, like something's not right. Like we have to get out of here. And I started to tap him, tap, 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 tap. Like it's like, okay. And he's like, what? Nothing's the matter, in the dream. And then I see him go into the hotel room. These two guys are both right there, and they also there. And so I'm like, all right, I gotta get the fuck out of here. So then I flew around to the elevator so I could go back down to the lobby, and then I woke up. But it was like just kind of a get out of danger. Those are the only instances recently where I've flown. Is like a get me the fuck out of here. I gotta go because something's not good that's going on in there. Yeah.
Well, that's a good reflex to have, and it serves you because it's broad. It can play out in a lot of different ways. What about, have you experienced the dead in your dreams? People that I don't know if you know a lot of people that have died, but anyone like grandparents or anyone, have you experienced them in your dreams?
Maybe my grandma Anna a few times, but not really. I haven't had, so you are familiar, right, with the eighth house in astrology?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so there's two themes that come up really prominently with the eighth house. I have a fuck ton of planets in my eighth house. So there's like death and then there's trauma. So I've experienced just tons of trauma, but I haven't, knock on wood, experienced, too much like death of people close to me. But yeah, so not really. Maybe my grandma Anna in a few dreams, but.
And so in those dreams with your grandma Anna, do you have any recall of those dreams that you could share?
From what I remember, they were pretty like her doing her thing while I was doing my thing, was not too significant. And I also I'm not convinced that it was even really her,
That's interesting. Okay, so let's look at deja vu. What you got, girl?
Oh gosh, I mean, that kind of like my mind just like jumped back to my relationships because every single one of my relationships felt like deja vu or like I was playing them out again, or like I've seen that before. I regularly have deja vu though. I think that's pretty, or Mandela effects or weird, like where you're just, I mean, I think it makes sense though. Right now, I think there's a lot of reality unfolding, but I've always had, it's like, oh my gosh, I swear I've been here before. And then it does kind of like beg the question, well, have I been here before? Was I here in dream time? I think a lot of that is what deja vu probably is, right?
Well, I mean, there are people that have real solid ideas of what they think it is. I'm not one of those people that really, I allow everyone their space and freedom to think what they want.
Yeah.
And so I actually get
A lot
put
of
off.
dogma.
Right. And so, especially with this kind of stuff that's just out of reach, just
Yeah.
far enough out of reach where it could be like, this is an empirical opinion. And so,
Right.
but I do believe I've enjoyed many of the theories around deja vu, and I like some of them. I like the idea that it's like a glitch, right? Or a time overlap.
Right.
Uh,
That
oh,
reminds me
let
of
us have
something
it.
too. So in Charlotte a lot over the last month specifically, and maybe this has happened all along, maybe I'm just only aware of it now, maybe, but so I feel like time gets frozen in areas, like
Yes.
and it's not like I'm missing like linear time, but there are like a lot of, and I actually corroborated this with a friend of mine. There was like a specific afternoon where I was like making potatoes or something, it's like super domestic like that. And I was like just standing there, and then suddenly, it's like you walk into a room and you can't remember why you walked into that room, and it just felt like hours had passed, but there was no time that had passed. And I wonder, like, yeah, I think time gets like played with probably way more than I am consciously aware of. Mm-hmm.
I don't think it gets played with. I think you regulate it in your, your bubble of reality.
Is it the chicken or is it the egg? You know what I mean?
I think it's all us.
So you think it's all us,
Mm-hmm.
like all of this?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay. I could see that too. I mean, I don't know. I think Jerry, I'm still in the stage where I want to blame, so I'm gonna have my blame game.
There's no one to blame but yourself. That's what you're gonna find out. But no, I mean, you can experience time differently from people right next to you. People, you can be in a state where time's flying by, yet the guy next to you says it's crawling. So it's all perception. Yeah. It's just perception. That's all it is.
Yeah, but like, when I reached out to a friend of mine who she's very into the woke mob thing. I can't like fully get behind that all the way, but she does have a very, very active dreamscape, like way more active than mine. And, so she's kind of like, we've kept in touch over these sorts of things, and she felt the same thing around the same time. So then it's like, well, is that like just us, or is this like a whole ass dark city kind of a situation where like,
pretty much,
yeah, it's yes.
Yeah. And you said the woke mob thing, and that just reminded me of those energy attachments we were talking about earlier with like Reiki. Same thing exists there. There's energetic attachments with that. And that's why people seem, my opinion, like get into that mob mentality and just totally freak out,
Totally. Yeah. And it's interesting too, like, to think about, because I've had a lot of experience with entities of all kinds, big and small, you brought up sex earlier, Niche, and I have a story, but it's not related to dreams, so I want to respect that stage.
Oh, let it go. Bring it on, girl.
Especially if it's about sex.
Oh my gosh.
We're good.
Okay, so, but before I launch into that, I do want to say, like, I'm pretty sure that most people have at least one entity attachment, if not way more. And and then it's like, what is an entity? Are those little nanoparticulates that are in our food and water and air, like, those are foreign energies.
Well, those are just the physical representation of the energies.
Yeah.
right? A lot of people who have like, heavy metal toxicity or parasites and stuff also have like, etheric stuff going on like that, right? So, but yeah, so I'll get into my entity story then. And this is a crazy story. And this all happened before I was like truly like being initiated, which I think happened for me last year, like where I was like, oh, no, nothing is what it seemed. This is not the world that I thought that it was. But so in 2017, I met someone and we were talking and hanging out and whatever, and was definitely like, he professed to be like a chaos magician, and I was like, oh, I don't think all chaos magicians are the same or, are bad, but this person had a particularly like nasty rep, of being, unstable and also, yeah, like just weird, magically powerful. Found out later, high level Mason, so that's an interesting twist. So when we did the thing, it was very tantric, right? It was very like ecstatic. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, and it was the first time that we had slept together. And in that day, everything in my whole entire being was like, don't do it, girl. But then, I was like, I want to press that button, and I'm pretty sure that I had some sex love addiction kind of thing going on and have since, addressed this. But it was kind of like what you said, Nish, of like, you just sort of, you override your own better judgment because
it comes on like a fever, girl.
Something is there driving that, right? So, so then I slept with him, very ecstatic, very like, tantric, and I had only ever experimented with that with a partner that I had been with for a couple of years, so it was just like, it was really like a lot, very intense. And then for the next 7 days to complete a spell, I had like the most intense like incubus experience, like every single night, like for 7 nights, like,
oh my,
where I was literally being graped, like every night, like for 7 nights. It was awful. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. But so then, 7 days later, I'm like in front of a fire, and this is after I bought like $80 of like, fennel, and I bought like saltpeter, and I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do with all this stuff? Oh man, it's funny. So, so I threw it into a fire, like, and I guess 7 days it was up anyway. So, so time passed, and I actually believe that this was like my spirit. Like, I had a dream where I saw that experience in retrospect, but from an aerial view. And he fucking like did a ritual. Like, he had a circle he was offering me up to, question mark, whatever, he was working with to bring whatever he wanted to its conclusion or whatever, So that was pretty horrifying, right? So fast forward a year, and I'm sitting at the local watering hole, and I see this person that, she's a client of mine, and she starts telling me about her boyfriend and how, oh, they had a miscarriage because this guy has had so many like miscarriages with women. Like, it's like his stuff is like the black goo. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about him, obviously. So, okay. So in that conversation, she's telling me about this guy. They had a miscarriage. He made it all about him. It was like a whole thing, and she starts to mention that he's very unstable, very dark, but there's a lot of sexual magnetism going on with that, and I was like, what's this guy's name? And she was like, Shisha. And then I just like made a noise, like I made a noise or a face or something. And she was like, what's that about? What is that? What is that? And I was like, sisterhood, fuck it, I'll tell you, So I told her like what I just told y'all, and they were trying to break up, and but then of course they got back together. I can only assume that she told him what I said, and then I saw him about a month later, same watering hole, haunted place probably. I mean, there's like tentacles hanging from the ceiling actually, like looking back in that that particular location. But, you know, so he gestures at me almost like he's Spider-Man. Like I remember like Spider-Man, you know, and later on that night, my back goes out, boom, you know, and
Man.
so over the next month, I was just super fucking aware that I was like not alone in my body, even like not it. Not even just in my field, you know, you can kind of feel when something's got a cord in you, you know, but it was more like in my body, like where I felt that there was, I was
Like barbs.
yeah, like I was being like
Harpooned.
possessed,
Yep.
even though I think my awareness of it kind of like took some of the, like I was not going to give it that space, you know. But so I tried everything under the sun to remove it and clear it. And like now I probably could, you know, I mean, now I remove entities on other people when I see them just because I'm just, you know, like I have like maybe like a little bit of a vendetta. So in that space though, over the course of the next several weeks, it was like louder when I was doing a spiritual practice or having sex with my partner at the time. And that was really disorienting, you know, these two places that I feel kind of free, kind of like I'm doing my thing, you know. And so yeah, so over the next month I spent fucking $700 that I will never see again. And on Reiki and like angels, angels, you know, and like, you know, and so nobody obviously could remove it except for the shaman that I had to like travel to see, and she fucking like she breathed it in and she breathed it into a jar, and it felt like fucking like somebody was like stabbing me or like burning me when she removed it. And she told me that it was an egregore, like kind of with like a demonic sort of you know, like signature. And she said that it had 3 jobs, that the jobs were to disempower me, which I mean that it succeeded. That I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty fucking torn up about it. You know, and then the other job was to like ruin my career, like tarnish reputation, that kind of thing. And then the other job was to stop my heart.
Oh man.
Yeah, so that's a story. And then that sort of opened up the door for just like me being just so fucking aware of like, you know, that there are other things that can do things and stuff. So went on a long journey of like learning how exactly you have to heal your violation issues, you know, you have to heal like that original wound, I think, to be able to stand in a space of sovereignty, which is like, okay, what does sovereignty mean here, where like, you know, we get programmed at night, or like, you know, what does that look like here? You have to be able to like be really strong in your center and say like, get the fuck out, you know, like righteous anger. But at the time I didn't know that, you know, I was like, oh no, the world is just made of love, everything is all good.
That's that
you
new
know?
age programming.
I know, it was so bad. Oh my gosh, like oneness, like the oneness sort of thing,
Yeah.
that to me feels very like
Transhumanistic.
Transhumanistic. Is that what you said?
That's exactly what I said.
Oh, dude, totally. Like, don't you want to just be one with all consciousness, just in a cloud, you know?
Not really.
No, right? I know, I don't want to be one with y'all. No.
You brought up
NPCs.
you brought up, you kind of touched on it, but then you backed away from it. But I think what you were saying was you tend to do entity detachment on the fly with people you see.
Yeah. If I see it and if I'm like, that shit's not cool.
I know.
Don't fucking do that.
My question is, how often do they come back at you angry?
I've not experienced that.
Okay. Well, that's good. You're lucky. I mean, if you're
Though
just
I
walking down the
do,
street and you say, "Oh, that dude's got the shit on his back," boom, you clear it. That's different. But I mean, if you're in a room with people and you do it, I'm sure you'd get some kind of feedback from them. And I'm just curious if you did. That's all.
well, but it's like, do I even have to say anything to do it? Like, you can like pick them off, put them in the incinerator, you know? I mean, like, I send them to the galactic core, but it's like, but in that space, I guess, like, I have had, I don't know, the targeted individual thing is something I cannot get behind fully, because I think it like really, I mean, I think it's a real thing and like it really does happen. And even in the process of like my awakening or whatever you want to call it, like since last year, I have experienced, I think, some like weaponry action, you know, just trying to kind of get me to stop or like, you know, to sit down or whatever, you know. But I do think that that is one of the ways that people can be targeted, is through entities. And like, yeah, I mean, there's a series of years where I was just picking shit off of me. And that's like daily because of where we are. I mean, you go into the store and like, I think it's all around like your triggers, you know, and like your wounding and like even the wounding that like you can't see, right? Like, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
So it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's just hard, I think, to heal the things that you don't know, or, you know, the things that you can't really get at. It's like the unseen, it's like the itch that you can't scratch, you know. But I think,
And then try to explain that to a normie.
oh my gosh, so I literally talk like this to normies. I can't, I'm like, it's authenticity or bust. Like, I just can't be anything else, you know. It's like,
Well, in the old language, you know, we used to call that some of this stuff was like hag writing, and when they would attack, you know, someone's working the roots on you, or
yeah,
there was all this other language that happened until recently, where it started to shift into the terminology that we're now seeing with all this. So, and
yeah,
the new terminology, which I'm pulling up into, and the only point I'm making here is that this stuff's been around a very long time.
absolutely.
And the terminologies have been changing and shifting and morphing. And that's something I think that's good for people to understand. But I am in this group that believes there's been an engineering going on a very long time, whether we
Oh
want to
yeah.
call it artificial intelligence or not. There's something bigger going on, and people who understand magical principles and the magical universe alone, just that alone, understand how to manipulate and control the environment. That's part of what that is. And so, yeah, it's an important principle to understand. And that story is just so good. It's super relevant, Meredith, to what's going on all over right now. And it's another reason why I stepped away from, like, I wouldn't ever date. I can't ever imagine dating a magician or
Yeah.
anyone on that level ever again. They are. It's funny because it seems like no matter how great they seem, when they feel jilted, those are the means in which they deal with stuff, and it's nasty.
Yeah. And I think even like, you know, I could confidently say that all of the relationships that I've had romantically, sexually, have been 100% set up, like as a trap door for me to walk into. So for right now, like, I think, yeah, I don't know too much about like your story, and I would love to know more about it, you know. And it's like, when you first started to realize or recognize some of this stuff, like, did you date? Or like, were you dating? Because for me right now, I'm like, get away from me. Don't fucking touch me, you know, kind of is like how I feel, where I'm like, God, yeah, like I'll have a client and she's telling me about this new partner that she has, and oh, we just do so much for each other and this and that, and I'm like, oh, that sounds exhausting, you know. Can't.
Well, I was always magical, and I was brought up in kind of I was swimming in it in passive ways.
Mm.
And like I always say, I'd never have a knee jerk reaction to Christianity because I wasn't indoctrinated into it. But one of the things that I do knee jerk from is the New Age movement, because I do have some of that, and it's still some of the terminology I cringe. And so
what's your number one New Age cringe?
Oh God, I have to make a number one.
What's your numbers 1 through 3?
5D Earth.
Yeah.
Well, and that's
like, are we even in 3D? Like,
not much.
I have so
It's
many.
definitely splitting right now.
And you know, here's the thing is I actually don't want to put that out there for people. But I will say I love having magical people in my life. I just don't like getting entangled with them romantically. So I love having the magical brothers and sisters and everything in between. I love talking magic, and I love enjoying these kinds of conversations. I just find when the sex starts happening and we get into that mode, and when we start separating, like in breakups and stuff, even if we're not consciously doing something, our hurt and our pain is doing something. And and like I said, it can be completely unconscious to us. It's just we're hurt. And people that have this know-how or this prowess tend to be a little bit more they have that scorpionic edge. Even if they don't have that in their chart, there's that still I'm gonna sting you edge.
Yeah, for sure. Totally.
And so
that's life.
Oh shit, I see it's already. Oh my God, it's 8:14 already. Holy crap, this one went late.
I was giving you the watch thing. You didn't see me do that.
Oh, sorry, Jerry. I did not see it. Okay. So, Jerry, any of the
No questions.
No questions. So,
So thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure meeting you and speaking with you. Do you have anything you want to plug? I've got your website.
Speaking of energetic,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, so my website is meredithsluckystars.net, and I am coming out with a energetic hygiene and maintenance class. That's coming up in March. I'm just not sure when. I haven't said it.
And I've got a link to that and your Facebook page and something else, your YouTube channel in the show notes.
Very, very great.
Yeah.
You do a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry, for running the show.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And thank you, Nish, as always. It's such a pleasure to connect with you. And I would like to connect with you outside of recorded conversations, please.
Yes. Oh, definitely. And I would like to invite you onto one of our obelisks, because there's a lot of stuff that you're talking that Jerry and I love on our obelisk show. And this was kind of a bleed over, wasn't it, Jerry?
Sort of, yeah. But I'd love to do deep dive just on entity attachments and how to clear those, and just guidelines for people and about what it really is. Because I know we hit a lot of deep things today, but we didn't go over the lower level things that a lot of our listeners might not understand, so. But anyway, it's been fantastic.
I'd love to do that.
Yeah, great. I will contact you about that, and we'll get that book for next month. But it's been great meeting you. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
Enjoy Charlotte.
Yes.
Watch for my cousin. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Thanks, everyone in chat. Thank you, Nish, as usual.
Thank you, Jerry, and everyone in chat. I'm not in there, but thank you for being here. All the people we love and the people that our words find.
Except Suzanne. She wasn't there.
Oh man,
Suzanne, you're slipping.
Nah, she's at
We love
she's
our
at her
Sus.
daughter's house. I'm teasing her.
Aw.
But
And
just
so,
remember,
Meredith,
everyone. Sorry, go ahead.
Sweet dreams, Meredith. I'm glad you came
Aw.
on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks again, everyone. Remember, everything is demons. See you next week.